Have you ever wondered if something you do every single day without thinking could be slowly cutting years off your life? It's not smoking, it's not and it's not a lack of exercise. In fact, this hidden habit has nothing to do with what you eat or how much you move. Yet researchers across Europe and America are sounding the alarm. This one behavior common among seniors over 65 is quietly accelerating aging, weakening your immune system, increasing your risk of chronic illness, and silently chipping away at your independence. The worst part, most people have no idea they're doing it. By the time the signs appear, it's often too late. So what is this habit? Why is it so dangerous? And more importantly, how do you stop it before it's too late? It doesn't begin with pain. It doesn't begin with panic. In fact, it often begins with comfort. A decision to skip the morning walk because the weather feels too cold. Choosing to stay inside rather than call a friend. Sitting through the day without stretching your legs or speaking to anyone. And before you know it, that moment of stillness becomes a pattern, a habit repeated day after day. According to leading research from institutions like the National Institute on Aging, Harvard Medical School, and several long-term studies across Europe, this subtle shift in daily routine may be the most dangerous threat to senior health today. This isn't about major health crises. It's about the silent erosion of the body and mind caused by prolonged inactivity and social withdrawal. Most people understand the importance of staying active and connected, but few realize how quickly the absence of these two factors can accelerate aging. We can divide this hidden habit into two core elements: physical inactivity and emotional isolation. Separately, they are concerning. Together, they create a powerful downward spiral that often goes unnoticed until serious health issues arise. Physical inactivity doesn't just rob you of strength, it steals your resilience. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports that more than 31 million adults over 65 are physically inactive, and the consequences are severe. When the body isn't moving, muscles begin to deteriorate, balance becomes harder to maintain, increasing the risk of falls, which are the leading cause of injury deaths in seniors. At the same time, sedentary behavior elevates inflammation throughout the body, contributing to arthritis, heart disease, and even cognitive disorders like Alzheimer's. Poor circulation means vital organs, including the brain, aren't getting the oxygen and nutrients they need. And as insulin resistance increases, the risk of developing type 2 diabetes skyrockets. Even moderate exercise can't fully counteract the damage of long periods of sitting dominate your day. A University of Cambridge study found that seniors who remain seated for more than 7 hours daily have a 35% higher chance of premature death, regardless of whether they include light exercise later. This is critical. It's not just about whether you walk or exercise. It's about how frequently you break up your sedentary time. Sitting for hours, whether reading, watching TV, or doing puzzles, leads to cumulative strain on your internal systems. The solution isn't grand fitness goals. It's regular, consistent movement throughout the day, every day. But the body isn't the only system at risk. Emotional and social withdrawal may seem harmless, especially when described as needing space or preferring solitude. Yet the biological impact of this quiet detachment is significant. Studies published in the journals of gerontology show that seniors suffering from chronic loneliness face a nearly 30% increased risk of heart disease and a 32% greater likelihood of stroke. But it doesn't stop there. Loneliness accelerates aging at the cellular level. Telomeres, protective caps on the ends of DNA strands, shorten more rapidly in those who feel isolated. And the shorter your telomeres, the faster your cells age, weakening your immune system and increasing susceptibility to chronic illness. Dr. Steve Cole at UCLA has demonstrated that loneliness triggers the body's emergency systems, increasing genes related to inflammation while suppressing those that help fight off infections. This means that even in the absence of physical threats, a lonely senior's body behaves as if it is under chronic attack. Their immune function declines, healing slows, and internal stress rises. But here's the twist. Being alone is not the danger. Feeling disconnected is. There are elderly individuals who live alone yet remain deeply connected to their community through calls, hobbies, group meetings, or volunteer work. They thrive. But others, many others, experience a slow retreat from the world. They may not recognize it as isolation because it builds so gradually. They still shop for groceries, exchange a word with a neighbor, or speak to family once a week. But the deep, meaningful human interactions that nurture the spirit and engage the mind are absent. And when this emotional withdrawal coincides with a lack of physical activity, the impact is not just multiplied, it compounds exponentially. Let's imagine a familiar scene, a widower in his early 70s, living in a quiet suburban home. He's not bedridden, he's not ill, he still drives himself to the grocery store and keeps his house tidy. But most days follow the same pattern. He wakes, eats alone, and settles into a worn armchair with the newspaper. The phone doesn't ring. He doesn't call anyone. Lunch is a sandwich in silence. Afternoons pass in front of the TV. Evenings fade without conversation. It seems peaceful from the outside, but inside his world is shrinking. His muscles weaken, his memory falters, and eventually even climbing the stairs or recalling the day of the week becomes a challenge. By the time someone notices weight loss or confusion, by the time a fall occurs or a hospital visit becomes necessary, the damage has already taken root. This is the danger of the hidden habit. It doesn't feel urgent, it doesn't announce itself. That's why it goes unchecked. What makes this issue even more insidious is how easily it masquerades as normal aging. Slower movements, quieter days, and reduced social circles are often accepted as part of getting older. But when these changes are not intentional or supported by engagement in other enriching activities, they signal a concerning decline. And the truth is, many seniors, especially those over 70, are unaware that these seemingly small shifts in daily behavior may be cutting years from their lives. In the next section, we will uncover the subtle warning signs that this hidden habit is taking root and explore the early interventions that can restore vitality, connection, and health before the damage becomes irreversible. It usually begins with the smallest details. You notice your loved one is waking later than usual, or skipping meals they once enjoyed. Their voice on the phone sounds flat, their stories less vivid. You ask how they're doing and the answer is always the same. I'm fine. One of the most overlooked signs is a decline in daily curiosity. Seniors who once read the newspaper each morning or watched documentaries with interest now seem disengaged. They stare at the screen without following the plot or stop asking questions about the world around them. This is more than boredom, it's a soft withdrawal of the mind, a sign that the mental muscles are no longer being exercised. In tandem with this comes subtle neglect of personal care. Clothes stay wrinkled, hair isn't brushed, and meals become increasingly simplified. Toast, canned soup, maybe nothing at all by dinner. These aren't just signs of convenience. They're signs of fatigue and a quiet retreat from self-worth. When energy drops and motivation fades, it's often because the person no longer sees purpose in daily effort. Then there's movement, or the lack of it. A senior who once enjoyed morning walks now claims the weather isn't good enough. Their steps are shorter and they tire more quickly. This physical slowing down doesn't happen in isolation. It's often paired with increased sleep during the day, longer naps, or spending more hours in bed. Their world, once active and engaged, begins to shrink to the size of a single room. You might also notice changes in speech patterns. Fewer jokes, less expression, responses become shorter, and eventually conversations are replaced with silence. What used to be a lively exchange turns into a routine check-in. How are you? I'm okay. Need anything? No. And that's the conversation. When emotional tone disappears, it's often the clearest indicator of internal withdrawal. This slow detachment can be incredibly deceptive. Family might think it's simply a phase or natural aging, but underneath that quiet exterior, emotional numbness is spreading like a fog, dulling the senses and severing connections. Appetite diminishes, not from illness, but from indifference. Hobbies once loved collect dust. Rooms that were once filled with life now echo with silence. Seniors begin to retreat not just from others, but from themselves, their identity, their passions, their purpose. And the more days that pass, the harder it becomes to reverse. One poignant example is Margaret, 76, who had always been known for her wit and charm. She used to lead book clubs and organize tea gatherings in her Chicago neighborhood. But over one winter, her daughter noticed something had changed. Margaret stopped calling. Her bookshelf remained untouched. She'd say she was just resting, but when they visited, the house was quiet and dim. The laughter was gone. After a gentle conversation, her daughter convinced her to see a doctor. It turned out she was experiencing early symptoms of depression. Masked beneath what looked like peaceful aging, Margaret's experience is a window into a broader pattern. How decline often wears the disguise of calm. But this warning sign isn't exclusive to women. Consider the case of Thomas, 79, a retired engineer from Oregon. After his wife passed, Thomas stopped attending his weekly chess meetups. At first, it was understandable. Grief needs time. But months passed, His neighbors noticed that his lawn went unmowed, his usual morning walk stopped, and his garage. When a neighbor finally checked in, they found Thomas sitting in the same chair for hours at a time, staring at the floor. He hadn't spoken to anyone in days. He wasn't in pain, he wasn't ill, he was simply empty. This emotional numbness is a red flag, and one we must never ignore. These stories echo in countless homes across Europe and North America. A missed birthday call, a canceled holiday visit, an untouched hobby, a cold meal left uneaten. The quiet fading of laughter and the creeping sense that the person you love is slowly becoming a shadow of who they once were. Often these changes unfold so gently that families chalk it up to age. But age alone does not cause someone to lose their joy, your spark, their connection to the world. That's why awareness is everything. If we can spot the clues early, we can act early. Because once you name the problem, you can begin to reclaim the person inside it. Look for emotional withdrawal, reduced movement, changes in personal routines, and most of all, loss of curiosity. When curiosity fades, life loses its grip. But the good news is this: recognition is the first step toward reversal. And in the next part, we'll explore how seniors across the world have broken this habit, reclaimed their vitality, and proven that it's never too late to choose life again. The journey back from disconnection is not a sprint, it's a series of gentle returns. For seniors who've been caught in the grip of inactivity and emotional withdrawal, the most powerful tool for recovery is not willpower alone. It's rhythm, a renewed sense of daily purpose, a structure that brings clarity, movement, and connection back into life. This rhythm begins with the smallest, most seemingly insignificant decisions. Getting dressed each morning with intention, opening the window for fresh air, choosing to make tea rather than skipping breakfast. These are not chores. They are rituals of return, and once they are in place, bigger changes can follow. These acts tell the body and mind, life is still happening, and you are still a part of it. Purpose doesn't start with a big mission. It starts with a moment. And when these moments are stacked day after day, they create the foundation for something remarkable: renewal. For many older adults, rediscovering physical movement is the first gateway to change. But forget gym memberships and demanding regimens. The most transformative routines often begin with just standing up every hour. Research from Stanford University found that even low-intensity movement, like standing, stretching, or walking to another room, when done regularly, improves circulation, reduces joint stiffness, and boosts mental alertness in people over 70. There's also the psychological benefit. Every time the body moves, the brain receives a signal. I'm still here, I'm still capable. That sense of agency is irreplaceable. Physical activity, even in its simplest forms, becomes a declaration of life. Seniors who begin moving again, even if only a few steps, and before long the body remembers what it once loved: momentum. Take Jean-Paul, 85, from southern France. After his wife passed, he barely left his house for nearly 2 years. It wasn't until a neighbor invited him to feed ducks at a local pond that something shifted. That single act, just walking to the water, bread in hand, brought him back to the world. Today he leads a walking group of 5 other widowers. They don't walk fast, they don't walk far, but they walk, and they talk. The pace doesn't matter. The return to rhythm does. And that's the miracle of small steps. Each one reconnects us to the living world. Jean-Paul's days now begin with movement, continue with companionship, and end with a sense of completion. What started as a single walk became a new identity. Next comes reconnection, arguably more difficult, but just as vital. Loneliness doesn't end when someone enters the room. It ends when we feel seen. For seniors who've been isolated, rebuilding these bridges often requires support. That's where technology, when used wisely, becomes a powerful ally. Video calls with family, virtual game nights, online book clubs, or even simple text messages throughout the day can reignite the feeling of being part of something larger. It's not about the volume of contact. It's about the quality. It's about moments that feel genuine, conversations that go beyond small talk, a shared memory, a favorite joke. These create emotional resonance that lingers long after the screen goes dark. One program in Denmark has been particularly effective. It pairs high school students with seniors in retirement communities for weekly calls or letters. The result? Not only have the seniors reported increased happiness and decreased depression, but the students themselves have become advocates for aging awareness. The human connection, even across generations, rebuilds confidence, memory, and emotional strength. The power of being listened to, of being asked questions, of being told you matter. This is medicine for the soul. But what about those who live far from family or have few friends left? That's where the deeper transformation occurs, through self-reconnection. It might begin with journaling, or painting, or reading aloud to oneself. These solitary rituals become anchors. They return structure to long silent days. Some seniors begin volunteering. These acts aren't just good deeds, they're lifelines. Volunteering replaces isolation with impact. It reminds seniors that they are still needed, still capable of giving, and still capable of shaping someone else's life for the better. In Minnesota, a 91-year-old named Clara began recording daily reflections on her life. Short 2-minute clips she called Wisdom from My Porch. Her niece uploaded them to a community blog. Soon, neighbors she hadn't spoken to in years began writing her letters. Some of them came to visit. Her reflections became a catalyst for reconnection, not just with others, but with herself. She began reading poetry again. She lit candles at dusk. She dressed with care. Clara found that speaking her memories aloud made her feel relevant, and relevance brought resilience. Faith, too, plays a powerful role for many. Attending spiritual services, whether in person or virtually, reintroduces shared space, shared meaning. A simple prayer, a quiet hymn, a moment of stillness in a sanctuary. These reconnect the spirit to a greater sense of belonging. And that's the essence of what brings seniors back from the brink. The realization that they still matter, that their voice has weight, that their experiences still have the power to inspire, guide, and touch others. Purpose can be sacred or simple, but it must be felt. It must come from within. The truth is, breaking this hidden habit requires a shift in mindset. From waiting for the world to come in, to reaching outward. Even a little. It's not about a total transformation overnight. It's about nudging life forward. And when these nudges become daily habits, something beautiful happens. The body regains strength, the mind regains focus, and the heart regains courage. This is the essence of elderly reflections. The idea that each story, each day, and each decision holds the power to rewrite the next chapter. If there's one message this entire journey teaches us, it's this. Aging is not a process of fading. It's a process of deepening. Seniors don't need to chase youth to feel alive. They need purpose. They need rhythm. They need presence. And most of all, they need to know that it's okay to begin again, no matter how long it's been. Because as long as there's breath in the body, there's still a story to tell, and it's a story worth hearing. Maybe no one warned you that silence could become a habit. That stillness, when left unchecked, could slowly dim your spark. But now you know, and now you get to choose differently. You get to say, not today. Today I move. Today I reach out. Today I live with intention. If you're a senior, know this, your story is far from over. And if you're someone who loves a senior, your attention, your voice, your visit could be the light that guides them back. The truth is, we don't need to add more years to life. We need to add more life to the years we have left. And that begins with small steps taken together. So pause for a moment, breathe, and ask yourself, what will you reclaim today? If this message resonated with you, please consider liking this video, sharing it with someone you care about, and subscribing for more reflections on senior health, longevity, and the quiet wisdom of life after 65. And tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? We'd love to hear your voice, because your voice still matters.